to Waifu History, where pronouns don't mean dick. I'm Belle, your history sensei. And yes, all historical figures are portrayed as ladies. No apologies. Napoleon's Grande Armée was one of the most famous fighting forces in history. And what makes it instantly recognizable, even over 2 centuries later, are its uniforms. From the ordinary Fusilier to the elite Grenadiers, each regiment had its own look, its own prestige, and its own place in the Emperor's vision. And yes, that's a historically accurate representation of him. Would I lie to you? But behind the glamour of parades and portraits, these uniforms were more than decoration. Every plume, strap, and button had a purpose: to carry gear, display rank, and show unity. Today, we'll strip these uniforms down, piece by piece, and explain their function. From shoes to shako, we'll see how a soldier's appearance wasn't just about looking sharp, it was survival. So, grab your musket and straighten your plumes. The fashion show of the Grande Armée is about to begin! At the heart of the Emperor's line stood the Fusilier, the ordinary infantryman of an extraordinary army. His title comes from fusil, the French word for musket, and that's exactly what he was, a musket soldier, trained to march, load, and fire in the perfect rhythm. He wasn't elite, but he was essential, the backbone of every regiment, and the standard by which the rest of the Grande Armée was measured. Now we'll start from the ground up. Every French Fusilier wore simple black leather shoes, low-cut, square-toed, and fastened with a buckler laces. These weren't parade boots, just sturdy marching shoes. The same kind worn by farmers, clerks, and half the empire. Over the shoes came the gaiters, tall black covers that reached nearly to the knee, fastened with a line of brass buttons. They kept mud, stones, and water out, protecting both the shoes and the soldier's stride. They weren't boots, just covers. Worn daily, they gave the French soldier his sharp uniform look, while marching mile after mile across Europe. Above the gaiters, the French Fusilier wore white breeches. These were tucked securely into the gaiters, keeping the lower leg neat and uniform. In campaign, trousers were often substituted, but regulation dress was always breeches. Around the waist sat a pipe-clayed leather belt, always whitened to match the rest of the gear. Its brass buckle gleamed at the front, while on the left hip it supported the soldier's bayonet scabbard. Unlike the elite companies, Fusiliers carried no sword. Their only sidearm was the bayonet, the essential companion to the musket. From the rear, the most important piece of equipment is the cartridge box, a black leather case that held the soldier's ammunition. It was suspended from a white crossbelt, ensuring it stayed secure and accessible during combat. Above the cartridge box sat the knapsack, a simple but vital pack carried into every campaign. Rolled across the top was the soldier's greatcoat, bulky but essential against cold and rain. Tied beneath it, a bundle of straw, not for fires but for bedding. Hanging from the straps, you can see a cast iron pan, a gourd or flask, and whatever small comforts the soldier could fit. It wasn't glamorous, but this was home on the march. A bed, a kitchen, and a pantry strapped to your back. Covering the torso, the Fusilier wore the habit vest, dark blue wool, red collar and cuffs, and that crisp white vest front. The unmistakable mark of Napoleon's line. 10 brass buttons ran in twin rows, each polished until it could blind the man across the parade ground. In the field, dust and sweat dulled the colors, but the cut stayed the same. Blue and red for France, white for discipline. The collar, red standing high, tight to the neck, was more than fashion. It kept the posture upright, the line uniform. Uncomfortable? Definitely. But Napoleon didn't build his empire on comfort.
La patrie en danger!
Nous la défendrons!
Vive la France!
Pour l'empereur!
L'empereur.
And finally, the crown of the French soldier, the shako. Tall, cylindrical, unmistakably Napoleonic, both protection and proclamation. Made of black felt stiffened with pasteboard, the shako framed the face in defiant symmetry. At its heart gleamed the flat brass plate, the imperial eagle spreading its wings over the regimental number. Just above sat the tree-colored cockade, blue, white, and red, the very soul of revolutionary France. Above it, a small green pompon marked his company, the 2nd Fusiliers of the line. Across the army, pompon color told a story. Green for the 1st, sky blue for the 2nd, orange for the 3rd, and violet for the 4th. Now, keep in mind, this is 1808, right after the Bardon regulations. By this point, the French army had finally standardized its uniforms. Mostly. Before that, there were many experimental designs. And believe me, there were some weird ones. Yum, 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 yum. Even when banners were lost and the drums fell silent, the commander could tell at a glance where his men stood. A patch of color here, a glint of brass there. Small signals in the chaos that kept an army moving like a single machine. Our Fusilier here, with the green pompon, belongs to the 2nd Company, the solid center of the French line. Not glamorous, but the backbone of Napoleon's army. With the uniform complete, we arrive at the heart of the Fusilier's identity. His musket. The Charleville Model 1777, smoothbore, .69 caliber, over 1.5 meters long. Simple, durable, and lethal in the hands of a disciplined line. It fired with a flintlock mechanism, spark, powder, and prayer. A trained Fusilier could fire 3 rounds a minute, though in battle, even 1 was an achievement. When the command came, "Fix bayonet!" the musket became a spear. A single twist, and the line transformed a wall of lead into a hedge of steel. Every drill, every stitch of his uniform led to this moment. The perfect balance of discipline and destruction. The musket defined him, not by its power, but by his mastery of it. But discipline alone couldn't win a battle. For every line of Fusiliers holding firm, someone had to move. Fast, silent, and ahead of the guns. In Napoleon's armies, that role fell to the Voltigeurs, the light companies of the line infantry, where the Fusiliers stood shoulder to shoulder. The Voltigeur crouched low, ran wide, and struck first. They were chosen for speed and aim. Smaller, sharper soldiers trained to skirmish, scout, and disrupt. Before the line advanced, the Voltigeurs were already there, firing, retreating, luring the enemy in. The Abbey vest stayed deep blue, but the details gave him away. A bright yellow collar, green shoulder straps, and matching epaulettes with yellow crescent. The cuffs stayed red, a reminder that even light troops were still line infantry. For ranks, 1 red chevron marked Napoleon, 2 red for a caporal, and 3 yellow for a sergeant major. Like the rest of the line, he wore 1 white crossbelt for his cartridge box and a waist belt for the bayonet, or sword. That extra strap you sometimes see across the chest wasn't decoration. It was one of 3 different leather straps for his knapsack. When Voltigeurs went forward, the pack came off, leaving only the essentials. A lighter load for a faster fight. And at the top, the shako, nearly identical to the Fusiliers, but with one detail that gave him away: the pompon. In parade dress, yellow tipped with green. On campaign, a plain green carrot pompon.
Was ist das auf Ihrem Kopf? Das sieht ja aus wie eine Karotte, aber grün.
Imbécile!
Either way, it marked him as a Voltigeur. Scout, sharpshooter, first to move when the drums began to roll. Uniforms may look alike, but in the field, every detail spoke its purpose. Where the Fusilier held the line, the Voltigeur broke it, turning the Emperor's army into a living, breathing machine of war. These were the elite company of the infantry line. Tall, steady veterans chosen for strength, nerve, and experience. When the drums grew close and the air went white with powder, the Grenadier didn't flinch. He closed ranks. And he advanced. Their coat followed the same cut as the Fusilier, dark blue with white lapels. But the elite red told you who you were facing. By 1808, the famous bearskin was mostly a memory in the line. The Grenadier wore their regulation shako. Black felt, brass eagle plate, tricolor cockade. For ceremony, a tall red plume. For campaign, a short red pompon. Either way, no one mistook him for an ordinary soldier. Belts and box matched the rest of the line, but the Grenadier carried one extra badge of status, the saber briquet at his left hip. It wasn't the weapon that broke a square, it was the man who could keep marching while others stopped. In the order of battle, they held the post of honor, the right. They led assaults, guarded the colors, and stiffened the wavering front. If the Voltigeur was the skirmisher's spark, the Grenadier was the iron that made a breach possible. They moved with less flash and more certainty. Boots that had crossed half of Europe. Epaulettes darkened by weather and war. Discipline first, talk later. It wasn't style that won ground, it was steadiness. Did they still throw grenades? Not really. But try telling them that, and see how far you get. Red on the shoulders, red on the cap, steel at the hip. The Grenadier was the army's anchor. When the line must hold, he holds. When the line must move, he moves. And others follow. From light to heavy, from Voltigeur to Grenadier, the Emperor's infantry worked like parts of a single machine. Some would rise higher still, but that is a different story. Well, I hope you enjoyed. If you like my content, subscribe. And if you like me, then like me. Until next time, peace out!